All right.
Hey everybody, welcome to Ask a Pro webinar number 8. So first of all, this is going to be recorded. If you're here with us watching, I encourage you to put any kind of questions you may have into the Q&A. You can also put them into the chat feature. We're going to be trying to get to them before the end of this. We're going to be a little abbreviated. John is going to have to run to a job, so we're only going to be doing this for about 30 minutes or so. So we're going to try to cover a lot of ground really quickly. So first, welcome, John. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
So for those who are here and are going to be watching this in the future, John Brennan is a fully licensed general contractor. He happens to be the contractor that is working with my wife and I on our ADU on our property here in Burbank. Today was a really big day. We had the panel components delivered. So we're really excited because the project's really moving along very well. So what we're going to do is going to keep the format that we usually try to keep for most of our Ask a Pro webinars, is to keep it non-promotional. So we're not going to be talking about my company or John's company. We're just going to be sharing our insight as, ADU professionals, insiders, you might say. But so again, welcome, John. I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you.
The one thing I wanted to kind of start off with, because on the How to ADU Facebook page, a lot of people just don't know where to start. They know they wanted an ADU, they're interested, but they're kind of like caught or stuck, because right now in the ADU space, in the market, there's a lot of people saying they do a lot of different things, and it is hard sometimes to kind of find that, okay, this is the best way to kind of move forward. And I would ask you from your perspective, if somebody's just starting, what would you recommend them to do?
Sure. I think if you know that you want an ADU, I think you need to first realize what you really want. You need to realize, do I want to convert my garage and have no storage space? Do I want to have maybe a little larger than a garage size? Let's go to 600 square feet and have like a nice little 1-bedroom unit. What is the end use of the unit? Am I going to use this as a rec room, as a gym, as a home office? Am I going to rent the space? We build ADUs from converted one-car garages at 200 square feet all the way to 1,000 square foot units. So I think the first thing, if you thought about building an ADU, that's great. Second thing is to decide what your needs are and wants. How does the property lend to having 1,000 square foot ADU? And you want to rent it as a rental? How is the access? How would that work with your family living in one unit and you renting the other unit? So figure out your needs and wants. Then we designed the ADU to your specifications.
One of the things, and you just touched on it, is Greg in your company was also mentioning this too, is you all will start, if somebody were to approach you and say, hey, I want to do one, you actually would internally have the ability to do some sort of mock-ups or simple renderings.
Sure.
So, and that's sometimes, and then in other cases, or I won't say other, but from your perspective, is that where you start with people the most, or are they coming to you with a set of plans from an architect that have already been designed and asking you to bid them?
Sure. It's really both. I'd say we get 70%, maybe 75% of our calls of people that are just thinking of building an ADU. Hey, I got some questions. How long does this take? What's it going to cost? This is the area I have. And then what we do is we offer a conceptual design. We offer the ability to identify the space they want to use, draw up a floor plan of a new ADU and show them a picture version, which is the elevations. We'll also do the site plan, which is an overview, sees where the property all lays out. So yeah, we do a conceptual design to discuss all that.
And then let's say they're like, yeah, John, I really like that. Let's move forward. The next step would be then submitting it over to an architect or a designer to kind of really draw up everything in the detail that it's going to need to be submitted to the city.
That is an option. In our business, we are full service. We handle all of that from A to Z. The engineering, the Title 24 energy aspects, and the full architectural plan and the full expediting with the city. Or or I would say 70% of that, the time we're doing our own designs, 30% of the time we're getting people coming our way saying, hey, we had an architect draw our plans. We've been approved with the city. We're halfway through the city process and we're giving estimates based on that. So I'm happy to do it any which way. We've done it a lot of different ways. We've done a lot of design work ourselves.
Thank you. I think that's not, would you say that's typical with most general contractors, or is this something you really wanted to kind of add to your business model to provide to your clients?
I don't think it's typical. I think there's probably maybe less than 20% of folks that really have a design team on staff. We have a design team on staff. This is a portion of our business that we do a good portion of business from. So I think of the 70% of the interest, the folks that call us, we probably have done designs for 70% of those folks. And then gotcha. We do almost everything we design, we build.
Gotcha. And I think that's just from my perspective, because I know that I found out about your company driving around and seeing those big white boards with your company's name on it and your phone number. And they're all over Burbank. So I thought that was kind of exciting, and it's a testament to the work that you all are doing there at your company.
Yes, thank you.
For customers that have, let's say they've gotten into it, they're excited to move forward, they've done whatever initial things they need to do with you. What should a person that's not me, but who's a customer, what should they expect through the process? I mean, what are the things that you tell them as far as timelines, delays, price changes? How do you kind of get that message out to somebody?
I'll paint the picture of the timeline from your initial call. We come out and we view that. And as you said, let's say we do the conceptual design. We've approved the conceptual design. We will have then estimated the project based on conceptual design only. At that point, we wouldn't have engineered plans, but we built enough of them to understand what's going to go on. We'll come to terms with the contract. We'll have agreed on the estimate. We'll move forward with the city. We'll run the full city process. Here in the city of Burbank, it takes approximately 5 to 7 months. We've had some cases in 4 months, and believe it or not, 7 months would be on a great case up here in the last year or so. More than a year or two ago, it would take a year plus. Some folks I've had take 2 years that have brought plans to me to get their permit approved. But right now, they're getting a little more streamlined. I know the city wants to get it into the 3 to 4 month process, but in my opinion, it's still 4 to 6 months. So now we have a permit issued. We then would decide when we would have a start date, when it works best for the client, best for our timing and business. Generally within 2 to 4 weeks from a permit issuance, we'll start the job. Most ADUs will take anywhere on the low end from 3.5 months, if it's a smaller converted type unit, to 7 months, maybe 8 months if we're talking about a 2-story garage plus a unit above it, and if grounds are involved, if we're doing hardscape and landscape and various other items. So once we get through, that takes you through construction, and once we contract, we work with the customers on all of their finishes and design aspects. So when we get our permit, we know what all the items that you wish, your windows and doors and tile and cabinets and countertops and everything that you see and touch that has a variable, we like to know that prior to starting, so we can do your job efficiently and to get your job done. Most jobs are done in the 4 to 5 month range that are on the smaller scale, and 5 to 6 months on the bigger scale.
Thank you. I think our job was a little bit more unique, and I think you or Greg it said, hey David, you should order your windows.
For sure.
And then I totally spaced on that one and was just like, I think someone in your office said, hey, have you ordered your windows? I'm like, no, I haven't ordered them. And that could potentially delay things because it's going to take 10 weeks. And
so that's a good point. So that's why during the plan check process, when we do our design, we have a long plan check process. When people come to us with approved plans, they might have approved plans and they want to start construction next week. Well, windows and materials across the board, but we'll just start with windows. If you want white vinyl in a lower end window, we can still get them in 3 weeks. If you want a little better vinyl window, they're going to take 8 to 10 weeks. If you want fiberglass or a colored window, it could take 3 to 4 months. So we like to start the job knowing when the material is going to be there, because as soon as we get to building and constructing the home, we want to make it watertight as soon as possible, and windows are a large part of that.
Yeah, and I think I saw something on the How to ADU Facebook page that somebody had to use vinyl windows temporarily before they got in the windows that they ordered, and they were selling the windows that they had put in there.
Right. We do lots of I haven't done that one before, but generally we'll just cover the whole house with paper and have no openings. But
right. How do you handle how have you been addressing I think one of the more, I don't want to say difficult, but kind of it's the fact of life of any sort of construction job right now, which is price increases.
Sure. Yeah. So when you sign an agreement with us to move forward, and we go through the city process, in our contract, it's going to have a market adjustment based on conditions. So, as we see lumber be volatile, it goes up and down. We've seen concrete, electric, copper, electrical, really down to every single trade has gone up. Air conditioning, all the different variances go up. So in our agreement, depending on when we sign an agreement, when we submit it to the city, and when you're ready to start, once we get approved plans and we're within 2 weeks of starting your job, we'll recheck everything. We'll confirm what the approved plans were per structural. We'll double check that our initial evaluations are correct. We'll see if anything's changed in the plans since it's been in plan check, and we'll look at current market trends and costs. And I've had, believe it or not, items go down over time, but I've had also items go up, and more so in the last year, things are going up definitely. So with the cities taking so long, this is one of the most unfortunate things, depending if you're in the city of Burbank or LA or wherever you're at. If your building departments take quite a long time for approvals, we could have had a project be, over 6 months or 8 months. I've had one just recently a year by the time we got approvals, and their costs went up 15%, actually. Wow. Upwards of 18%. There's a couple additions to the project that made some price numbers, but when you see a 15% swing, that's a big deal. And it's just out of our hands.
No, I understand that completely. The one thing that you have done quite a bit of are garage conversions.
Sure.
And I think one of the jobs I saw it was a 2-story.
Okay.
And what are you seeing more of in what you're doing right now? Are they garage conversions? Or are they adding square footage to a garage? Or are they the full-on fancy above garage?
I really have built every single variation. We've built them all. What I see most is garages converted with an addition to that, and carved out some part of an area where folks are still keeping some storage space. But your typical garage, 350, 400 square feet, and we're adding 200 to 300 square feet. That's what we see most of.
Okay. And is that significantly less expensive or somewhat less expensive than doing a full build detached?
It's by far not significantly. It can be a little bit depending on the age of the garage. If it's an older garage, we run into problems. We run into garages that don't have foundations, or insufficient foundations, insufficient stem walls that don't allow for waterproofing. So to tear apart and cut concrete and modify existing can sometimes be more expensive than just starting new and fresh.
Yeah, that is probably a wonderful segue into, I'm going to do a screen share.
Great.
You said it was okay if I show one of your projects.
Sure.
Which this is a garage conversion where you added some square footage to it. And Correct. You did something that I hadn't seen before, so just bear with me as I can. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, let me get over here to. All right. And so this is, can you see this picture?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So this one is something I took on a job that you were doing, and this is a conversion. So I'm going to try to zoom in here. And can you talk to us about just what are we looking at right here?
Sure. So we had a garage here that had no foundation. It had just a slab. And that's insufficient when you convert from a garage to a habitable living space. So we basically suspended the existing walls. More so not this wall, but the other wall that happens to be right on the property line or within like 12 inches of the property line. So in order to keep your setback, which is your measurement from the wall to the property line, at a lower distance than the approved 4 feet setback, we have to maintain that wall, keep it there. So we suspend it in the air, and then we turned around and poured a new foundation underneath it and a stem wall, which allowed to, well, in this case, we poured a double slab to keep it 8 inches. We have to have 8 inches of concrete above the dirt level. In other cases, we'll make a little stem wall, which is like a small curb that our wall will sit on.
And so this is this picture, this drone shot that I took shows the existing garage footprint right here.
Correct.
And then this portion of it is the add-on, and it had to comply with that 4-foot setback from that property line. So here on the left, we have which was the grandfathered garage, which could stay where it was in relationship to the property line. And this section had to be that 4 foot off.
Correct.
Yeah, I think this is a really fascinating picture because it just really shows what, doing that and abiding by those setbacks does. And I thought that was super cool. This is also the same project, and now you have, in what stage of construction is this one at?
So the house is framed. We are, looks like our roof is ready for an inspection, so we can get it covered with paper and waterproofed. We're starting to work on the roofs. We don't have our windows yet. These windows took quite some time. We are working on all the electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, which will be considered all your roofs.
Okay. And then I want to go back into the inside of this because this is after, it's basically the shot that you just saw where you have all the exterior panels up, but This is the inside. This darker wood is the original 2x4, and then this is the new one.
Correct.
And so it's floating, but it is, how did you attach it to the new
right piece? So what we had to do here is we had a little bit of a leveling issue here on this. So what we did, we still maintained the existing wall there with the lumber. So what we did is called sister. We put new 2x4s right next to it and sistered new studs. So we still showed that we maintained our existing wall. That's not structurally doing anything for us right now, but to keep that same line and not have an issue of having to move the wall over.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. So this is the same project, aerial, and I don't know if it shows up really well, but this is how you had to connect. And what I want to feature on this is the utility connection. This is the sewer line. Is there anything else in this trench that you dug?
Well, we'll eventually put a drainage line in there, and just sewer and drain. Our electrical had to go towards the middle, and on the other side of the property, you can see the trench. It just made sense to bring the gas and water there as well. We like to try to do one trench, and it's called joint trench, bring our electrical, plumbing, water, and gas all in one trench. But in this case, the sewer was straight there where that box cut is, where the little bigger cut is. That's right where our sewer connection was before it started going towards the street. And on the other side of the house is where our gas and water. So here we had no choice but to have two cuts, two digs.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'm going to jump around just a little bit. Let's see if I can get to that's another close-up of that trench that you did there.
Yep.
This is our project here where I'm at in Burbank. And one of the things I thought was fascinating as I've been watching this construction process is all of the different things that are involved. So you have here the footings, you have the plumbing is in, but there's just an amazing amount of gravel that was dropped off. And what is the purpose of having gravel underneath the concrete?
Sure. Gravel helps with the moisture as it comes off the concrete or comes up from the earth, and it helps with the compaction. So this is crushed, 3/4 crushed gravel. We're going to separate it. We're going to compact it a few times with a vibration plate. And then we're going to put a vapor barrier on top of it, which is plastic sheathing. and then we're going to put our rebar and concrete to make our slab foundation.
And then pour it. Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. It was great. Let's see. I know that we have a couple more minutes. I know we just got a question, so I'm definitely going to get to that.
I'm good, David. To
Okay.
2:40. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the things that Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, the City of Los Angeles, the County of San Diego, Oakland, San Jose, they're talking about pre-approved plans, and they all have different sort of types and different programs. And some of them are really great. San Diego County, I've heard, is just knocking the ball out of the park and doing amazing work.
That's great. Yeah.
The City of Los Angeles is kind of curious because they have things like 18, 16-pointed star designs that I think would cost $1 million to build. I mean, how do
they won't be in prefab, most likely.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
So the idea with pre-designed, fabricated, pre-approved, I should say that's pre-approved plans, can, I think, really sort of speed things up. We were talking to an inspector recently, and he was like, well, it may take away something. Or he was like, I don't think all general contractors are going to embrace the idea of pre-approved, pre-built plans or components. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it could be a wonderful addition to the ADU world and to the building departments to have a number of pre-approved plans that a customer or a homeowner or a builder could walk into the building department, modify their site plan that fits the correct orientation of the pre-approved plans, and walk out with a permit. What we take a month to design, upwards of 2 months between customer input and design and engineer to submit to the city, to then take 4, 6, 8 months to get approved. If that process was done in a week with the city efficiently, you not only just saved a good part of market appreciation on materials, you saved a lot of money there. And let's face it, when you get excited about building an ADU, you've thought about it for a few months or a few years, and you finally pulled the trigger to talk to someone and think about doing it, getting the ball rolling, and then you sit and wait for 8 months. It could take the excitement out of it. On the flip side, I've had worse than that, I've had customers build new homes that have had to wait in design review clauses and different things upwards of 2 to 3 years. Yeah, it almost takes the joy out of building. And in the current marketplace, with everything rising, we've had so many people get priced out where they can't afford to build that brand new home because it's several $100,000s more now. And so we don't see that as much with the ADUs, but try building a brand new 3,500 square foot, 4,000 square foot home, wait 3 years, the market will have adjust.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Cause I appreciate you kind of supporting the idea, and advocating, which I'm going to say you are, if
yes.
It's okay,
yeah.
is the idea of pre-approved plans. And we were very fortunate that the Burbank City Councilman Nick Schultz actually had that in his 2022 city objectives, and we're hopeful that we're going to be able to do that, not just with ours, but anybody who wants to submit. I think that would be a wonderful way to kind of, like you said, save up to 8 months and
sure.
avoid any sort of market appreciation. One of the things that a lot of people are looking at, and we touched on it just a little bit with the pre-approved, is if you're going to act at, you don't want to hire a general contractor to do everything, and you want to do it as an owner builder or a DIY. Can you what are your thoughts on that with ADUs that are pre-approved?
Sure. I think if you have plans approved, and if you whether you bought prefab, the prefab kit, or at least an approved plan that you could move forward with it, you hire a contractor who will do A, B, C, and maybe you want to finish up and do X, Y, Z. Maybe we build it and roof it, stucco it, drywall it, do all the roughs, and homeowners take over. We generally, as general contractors, will do the whole job. But I'll get asked once in a while, hey, my brother's a tile man, my uncle's a plumber,
right? And
I'll exclude certain things. And I think we'll see it more with these ADUs, especially with the prefab kits. Like, hey, let's hire the general contractor to do the foundation, underfloor plumbing, do the demo and grading, get the job built through the roof, put the roof on, put my windows in, do my stucco or siding, and say, here you go. Let the homeowner do all the roughs, with their cousins on the weekends and let them do the drywall and paint. And it's not an everyday practice for us, but I've done versions of that before.
And so I think that's one of the things I've been watching as they've been doing the foundation is just how critical measuring and leveling is. I mean,
Sure.
I've lost count how many times
We ran a laser.
Project manager has been out there with a laser level, making sure everything is just, right on. And what it does is it reinforces the critical, nature and the critical importance of having everything just perfect. Because if you're talking about, panel kits, they got to come and fit in perfectly right where all the hold downs and the tie downs are. And if
Sure.
they're off, then you have a big mess. And I
We don't
like the
big
idea.
messes.
Yeah. No,
This is
I like the idea.
construction. Things happen once in a while, but there's always a solution.
Yes, with professionals, there is always definitely a solution. We do have a question from somebody. Roger, thank you very much for the question. I don't think we answered it. And his question was, in an effort to plan, if you had to estimate how much it would cost per square foot to go from a garage that holds cars to an ADU, assumes zero appliances, but assumes, yes, that a foundation is needed, and assumes sewer and drain, gas, water, etc. all need to be installed, totally okay to give a range such as 250 to 350 per square foot. Just trying to really focus this value. Okay, I won't say the rest of that part, but I think we understand your question, Roger. Is you want to, what is it going to take, not including some of the appliances or fixtures in there?
Sure. So when we estimate, I don't come out with a price per square foot on estimates because every estimate is specific. We do a full line item estimate, and we share what the costs are for each individual item is that we show our customers and discuss through as far as plumbing, electrical, air conditioning, foundation, roofing, every line item that it takes to build that home, and add allowances depending on the level of we think the quality needs to be into that home. But if I needed to put it into price per square footages, I can. We always have a final number. I can divide that by square footage, but the difference is converting a garage that's 350, 400 square feet. My price per foot is going to be higher because it takes the same infrastructure, the same amount of utilities. A big factor is, are we splitting utilities? Do we want a separate electric meter? Do we want a separate gas meter? Do you possibly want a separate water meter? All those things cost money, difference of layout and so forth. But a simple answer of I want to convert my 350, 400 square foot garage is going to cost somewhere in the $300 to $400 a square foot range. And that's what it's going to be. If you take that garage and add square footage, another 400 square feet to it, that number is going to come down because the building of that additional square footage is not in the $400 foot range. It's going to be, now we're going to be blending that together. It's going to be closer to the 250 to 350 range.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that with us because a lot of people talk about it, but most people don't hear it from an actual general contractor. So I think that part of it is very important, and I appreciate that.
Every appointment I go to, everyone's time's valuable. The customers and mine. When we go on a meeting, I'll give people ballparks. We've estimated and built enough of these to where we can say this is what it's approximately going to cost, and here are the variables that make the price difference. So, and people appreciate that because if they're in a $200,000 project and they thought it was going to be $100,000, there's no meeting there. There's no way to make that work. But
right.
So that gives people a reality and lets them know, where things stand.
Have you ever had anybody run out of money?
Fortunately, no. I've had people get close, and I've had people not be able to finish certain things, but it might have that was some of the plans. That's where some of the DIY came into,
right?
Where we knew we were going to get so far, and if it just didn't work out, that we could finish. Because when we contract, we have a set price. Our price is not changing unless the customer comes to us and asks us to add on or do more or modify. So the job should be budgeted and planned out. But I have had folks that said, "Hey, we can only take it to this far. I want you to," and then I would have contracted to take it this far, and people continue. So, yeah. Unless you're remodeling an older home and you're doing a lot of work in there that you might find what ifs or unknowns which I generally will factor for some of those. In the ADU world, it's pretty cut and dry. We're going to know your job's going to be 150, 200, 250, 300, depending on what the job is. A big 2-story ADU, 350, something like that. And you're going to have budgeted. You're going to know that we have the funds.
Yeah, thank you. I just typed in the chat for Roger the name of John's company so that you can have that. And then also, I just message me however you connected through this webinar, and then I can make sure I can give you his email so you can have that as well too. The as we're getting close to the end point, what kind of recommendations would you have for anybody? I mean, you've been doing this for, I think, 12 years. You've had a lot of perspective. You were in real estate. You still are a licensed real estate agent, and you also have a background in finance.
Sure.
Because that's what I think you got your degree in.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, again, just regular advice to people in the ADU world.
And not only my knowledge in real estate and construction, finance. I mean, I'm a real estate investor. I've built many of these that I hold and rent. For folks that want to be an investor, this is the easiest way to add value to your property, to add cash flow to that property at the cheapest per square foot way to get that. Other than, with the values of real estate being so expensive, trying to buy a second property, trying to just either buy a 4-unit apartment building, let's say, or a duplex or whatever. If you have a house with a decent sized backyard, and you don't even need decent. One of my rentals, I love to say, I put 1,200 square feet with I had 37 feet from the back of the house to the back wall, and I fit 1,200 square foot 2-story house there, and it lays out wonderful, and it's great, and the rent is fabulous. So for real estate investors, I see it's a win-win. For homeowners who need the office, I get probably about 40% of my customers calling me right now, or I need a home office. I need the gym in the office and a guest spot for mom and dad when they come into town.
Right.
And so we get all those. I think figure out your needs and wants. And unless you're in the position of selling your home and buying a bigger home to suit those needs, and you've costed out all those items, how much is going to the closing and holding and purchasing costs and so forth. This is an inexpensive. Don't get me wrong, every dollar counts. It costs money to do this, but in the world of real estate, where can you build 1,000 square feet where can you buy 1,000 square feet for, let's say, $350,000 in a market here where 1,000 square feet would go for $1 million. So yeah. I think figure out your needs and wants and go from there.
Thank you. That's a really good insight. Lee has and I hope I'm saying that right, Lee, you had a question, and thank you very much for the question. It is like, what factors have the greatest influence on cost in terms of design, with a high ceiling, unique windows, or layout? What would you say would be the biggest effect on price?
Sorry, I missed a little side noise, but it's,
okay. Lee is wondering, what is the greatest influence on costs in terms of design? Is it a high ceiling, really unique windows, or a very custom layout?
I mean, there's a lot of variables there. When it comes to design, the thing people spend the most money on sometimes are big, fancy, big doors, fiberglass, aluminum clad windows, high-end plumbing faucets and fixtures, real expensive tile. Like, we can see that become expensive. To go from, if we go from 8 to 9 or 10 square foot ceilings, then possibly to vaulted ceilings, those all add cost too. If we don't have a truss system that's doing those vaulted ceilings, and we have to have an engineered vaulted ceiling, those get a little bit pricey with beams and additional bigger lumber, because our lumber is pretty expensive right now. So to say one item pushes it over. It's a combination. And I'll tell you what happens is, normally the houses that get designed with 9-10 foot ceilings and vaulted ceilings, well, guess what? Normally those folks like nicer windows. They like nicer fixtures. They like nicer flooring. They like nicer tile. And so it's a combination of costs, really. A lot of times in ADUs, when I'm building them as rentals, folks are like, they want to make it look nice, but we don't need to go overboard. So
Right.
then you see those with 8-foot ceilings and standard, like luxury vinyl or laminate flooring, prefab cabinets, prefab countertops. All those things are just kind of standardized. So I think there's a standard tier 1, tier 2 kind of look, and then there's more of an elegant, higher end look.
Thank you. Last question from Carmen, then I'm going to let you go, is how her question was, what do you recommend the best way to borrow money for an ADU construction, for an ADU build?
Sure.
So I guess I would say, where are you seeing your customers get that money?
I can speak to this, and I'll tell customers this when I meet them. I mean, I have a degree in finance. I've bought and sold upwards of probably 75, 80 homes of where I've either purchased, developed, sold, bought, flipped, sold. I've done 100 plus loans, 150 loans. So I can speak to this with a little bit of knowledge, but I would say that your best way, the cheapest way to get money is if you own that home and you have equity, either drawing a new first on your project, on your property, or getting an equity line, a second equity line of credit to draw the money. Right now, our interest rates are in flux. They're moving all around. They're moved up in the last, 4 months. And, the trend is that they're going to stay up. When the money was super cheap for a long time, which is still historically cheap, but when it was, sub 4%, folks just got a new first and they just sat on the money. They sat on the money and they would just refinance enough money to cover the cost of the build. Maybe they use some of their additional funds of their own, and that would work. Others would sit and go get equity lines because they didn't want to draw all that money. They want to use an equity line to kind of finance along the way. Part of the problem is with equity lines, if we see a market shift and if we see a downturn in the market, equity lines are the first thing that banks shut down. They lock your equity lines up. Now, that doesn't mean if you have a solid W-2 job and so forth, and they'll requalify people, but they might tighten up that equity line. You maybe had a $250,000 line that gets moved down to $150,000. When the market crashed in 2007, all equity lines went away. They just stopped them. They froze them. So I think if you're setting yourself up to do a $250,000 build, you have the equity in your property. I think it's a smart financial choice to just refinance your first and at whatever interest rate it needs to be, because the interest rates will eventually adjust again. We're still sitting at historical lows, but yes, the times of 3% and 2.5% are not going to be here for a while.
That's really a good one. I did get an interesting another question,
Sure.
And this will definitely be the last.
Okay.
Vaskin is asking, does John have any advisory service for real estate investors looking to purchase homes to add ADUs on as a business plan? So do you act as a consultant?
That's a good question. I've definitely consulted and given a lot of information to folks over the years. But normally it starts with, people calling in and wanting me to see their property and me to explain, kind of paint the picture on how you do this and how you finance this and creative financing ways. I probably could have a system or a service to do that, but I think, find us and give us a call and I'd be happy to kind of walk you through that. What's difficult is when folks are trying to purchase and they don't own the property, and I get several calls from folks saying, okay, what about this? Is this project going to work? And how much is this going to cost? And so forth. I think you need to learn the concept. You need to figure out how to secure a property, own the property. And once the concept's understood, then we'll make it happen.
Thank you for that. And I think that was a great question, Vaskin. So thank you. For everybody that is been here and participated in this webinar, episode 8 of Ask a Pro with John Brennan, who has his own general contracting company and is also doing our ADU in our backyard. Thank you for being here. For everybody who's watching this, it will be posted on my company's YouTube channel. It's also going to be on the How to ADU. It will be posted in the, where you put pictures and videos. It will eventually make it over there. And then we will also have it on my company's YouTube and other sort of social media channels. So if you want to just get in touch with me, Roger, I think you asked the question about where all of the webinars will be posted. Just let me know. And to John, for all of your time, because I know you are a really, really busy guy. Thank you, and I hope to have you on again in the future.
Very well. Thank you. Take care.
You guys take care. Bye-bye.